Hi, I'm Dave and welcome to Viewmaster Travels. Viewmaster is one of the most recognizable toys ever made, but over the last 80 years it's meant very different things to the companies that owned it. Was it an educational marvel, an engineering challenge, a foothold in the stereo photography boom, a weapon against Kodak, or simply just a toy? This story begins in 1950, at the start of Viewmaster's first golden age, but to understand how it got there, we first need to visit another company entirely. Viewmaster was sold by Sawyer's, originally a postcard and photo finishing company, but the construction of the viewers, projectors, and reel-making machines they used was done by Stereocraft Engineering. Stereocraft Engineering was founded by Karl Kurz and Gordon Smith in 1945. They both worked for the L.R. Teeple Company, which made mechanical timers and industrial valves in Portland, Oregon. Karl Kurz knew Viewmaster's inventor, William Gruber, and in 1943, Gruber asked him to help build a machine to manufacture Viewmaster reels. Kurz left the Teeple Company to help Gruber, creating both the high-speed Viewmaster reel-making machine and the iconic Model C viewer for Sawyer's. Gordon Smith left Teeple to work at the War Department, and when the war was over, he joined Kurz to help with Viewmaster. Together, Kurz and Smith started Stereocraft Engineering in 1945. Sawyer's was their only customer. The reel-making machines were extraordinarily complex, and even the simplest viewers had to be manufactured precisely. It was the impossible engineering achievements of everyone at Stereocraft that made Viewmaster possible. Their machines were still running 50 years later.
The motion pictures, as you've always seen them, have only had two dimensions, height and width. Well, I'm happy to tell you that this theater is going to show you the world's first motion picture in all three dimensions. March Obler's Pana-Vue. The most amazing development in entertainment since sound, with living, breathing depth, just as you would see them in real life. The Lover's Kiss.
In 1952, the first mainstream 3D movie hit the drive-in, Pana-Vue, and an amateur 3D photography craze soon followed, fueled largely by the introduction of the stereo realist camera. This camera took stereo images on 35mm film, creating a simple pair of left and right slides. You'd view them with a small viewer or a 3D projector. Sawyer's wanted to use Viewmaster to get in on this new market, but the smaller image size and unique construction of Viewmaster reels created significant engineering obstacles. Stepping up to the task, Gordon Smith designed an ingenious camera that let you create your own Viewmaster reels. Here's my Viewmaster camera. Everything about this camera reflects Stereocraft's engineering mindset. Here's how it works. The camera holds 35mm film, and since the Viewmaster images are so small, you can fit 2 rows of images onto one strip of film. How's that done? There are these light tunnels here that can shift up and down. The idea is to take pictures along the bottom of the film first, then take pictures back along the top as the film rewinds. This winding knob lets you set a mechanical limit restricting how far the camera will advance the film in the A position. As you take pictures, it winds down to 1. Then you turn the shift knob to B, and now the winder only goes the other way, counting back up again as you take more pictures along the top of the film. But that's not all. The camera has a unique exposure control system, exposure. This is a mechanical exposure triangle that controls the lens aperture and shutter speed. Listen to this. Ever hear a shutter sound like that? It's clockwork. Once you'd exposed a full roll of film, you'd either cut the little film chips out with a special device to load them into blank personal Viewmaster reels, or send the film off and have Sawyer's do that for you. The camera was, as you can see, very complicated to use, but also to manufacture, but it was popular. Around 30,000 were made, but its market was about to collapse. Stereocraft also made a stereo projector to go with the camera and cutter. It lets a group of people wearing polarized glasses see their photographs or any ViewMaster reel in 3D on a big silver screen. And for individual use, they created the Model D viewer with larger focusing lenses and built-in light source. To Stereocraft, ViewMaster was an engineering success, but by 1954, sales of the higher-priced precision-built products were lagging as the amateur 3D photography craze faded and affordable home movie systems gained popularity instead. As an independent company, Stereocraft's future was uncertain. Since Sawyer's was their only major customer, they agreed to move all their employees onto the Sawyer's payroll, avoiding painful layoffs. In 1956, all Stereocraft employees became Sawyer's employees, bringing their manufacturing skill and engineering expertise under one roof. This consolidation would benefit Sawyer's for decades to come, but ended Stereocraft forever. But let's back up a little and catch up with what Sawyer's themselves were up to in the 50s. The 1950s began with a significant move for Sawyer's, literally moving their production facilities from Portland to a new campus in Progress, Oregon, today a bit south of Beaverton. The new plant cost $1 million and covered 3.5 acres. From this news article, you can see the beginning of a trend. Viewers and reels weren't the focus for Sawyer's. Most of what they talk about is the personal camera. This article even calls the new factory a three-dimensional camera plant. In 1952, they were making 1,500 cameras a month. And ViewMaster reels were still a major part of their business, 90,000 reels a day, with over 300 titles to choose from, and they were the largest single user of 16mm Kodachrome film in the world. In 1953, ViewMaster reel sales were at an all-time high, and Sawyer's decided to open a new division in Belgium to make and market ViewMaster in Europe. While reel and viewer sales seemed strong, Sawyer's had taken a big risk with the personal camera system, the 3D projector, and the high-end Model D viewer, and in 1954 the amateur 3D photography boom was ending. Sales slowed, and the camera had to be sold at a discount. To Sawyer's, ViewMaster was just one piece of a growing photography company, so they began looking for new products. They were experts in processing Kodachrome film, so they started offering Kodachrome film development to the public, installing an entirely new processing machine to do so, but they quickly realized they could never keep up with customer demand and canceled the service. However, now that they owned the extra processing equipment, they decided to start a souvenir slide business, selling pre-made 35mm slides under the Pana-Vue brand. This fit well with the ViewMaster business. One photographer could travel to a location and create both the Pana-Vue and ViewMaster products at the same time. Often the Pana-Vue slide and the ViewMaster image of an event are basically the same. Sawyer's continued to diversify, selling slide projectors, slide viewers, home movie projectors, and regular cameras. For example, in 1956, Sawyer's introduced this, a low-cost Bakelite 2D consumer camera, the Nomad. It's the exact opposite of the stereo camera. It's simple and cheap to manufacture, not exactly an engineering marvel, and not exactly something that helped them stand out from competitors like Kodak and Polaroid. They were trying to sell traditional products against stiff competition in well-established markets, and by 1959, sales had hit rock bottom. In 1960, Bob Brost was promoted from executive VP to president of Sawyer's, and he started making changes.
It's a real privilege for me to introduce now the president of Sawyer's Incorporated, Mr. Bob Brost. Bob, what is Sawyer's position in the world of 3D or stereo pictures?
Sawyer's began manufacturing Viewmaster stereoscopes and reels over 20 years ago. We feel that Viewmaster is largely responsible for the present popularity of stereo. Actually,
to Brost, Viewmaster was Sawyer's biggest strength. He axed every product Sawyer's didn't produce themselves. Under his leadership and focus, sales started to recover and then took off dramatically. Focusing on what made Sawyer special was working, but his biggest gamble wasn't Viewmaster. It was something no one remembers today. Here's a picture of Brost, and on his desk is one of Sawyer's most mysterious and lesser-known products, the Rolls dictation system. The Rolls dictation machine was a German recording device that used a very wide page of magnetic material and a sweeping recording head. You could record a message and mail the magnetic sheet like you would a letter. Looking into this thing revealed Brost's true agenda. In 1962, he took Sawyer's public. Here's the SEC filing summary. In March, they registered 240,000 shares to be sold, and this lists what they wanted to use the money for. 300,000 to expand their plant, 400,000 for new product tooling, and 400,000 for an initial payment for a license to resell a dictation machine. 1/3 of the money raised was to launch an entirely new product category, office dictation. And this was just the down payment. The full license cost $1 million. In 1965, Brost had to sell another round of stock to pay off the balance. Looking at these investments, it appears Brost's long-term strategy was to move Sawyer's into entirely new markets. At this point, Viewmaster represented only 37% of Sawyer's sales, but with slide projectors they were neck and neck with Kodak. In fact, here's a quote. "One of the keys to Sawyer's growth has been the firm's ability to diversify beyond the Viewmaster product." But why spend over $1 million on a German dictation machine? Much of the success of Sawyer's could be tied to the success of the Rolls investment. Brost was betting everything on the intensely competitive office equipment market. Would Brost's gamble pay off? We may never know. Today, very little is known about the Rolls dictation machine, so it never sold well, and the next year, in 1966, everything would change anyway. Here is a Sawyer's 1100Z 8mm home movie projector from the late 60s. It's a simple plastic projector all contained in a carrying case, driven by a couple belts connected to a single motor. There's an interesting sticker on the bottom. As much as it's Sawyer's branded, it's owned by the GAF Corporation out of New York City. GAF is now a roofing company. I wasn't even sure this was the right company, but if you go into their online history, you find this, the entertainment years. Looks like Viewmaster was some weird tangent in their timeline. GAF, which meant General Aniline and Film, started in 1929. They were the American division of a German chemical conglomerate, IG Farben. GAF owned New York-based Agfa Ansco, a film and photography company. Like Sawyer's, Ansco was a competitor to Kodak. When World War II broke out, GAF found themselves in trouble. Several of its directors had Nazi ties, and it was thought that their profits were funding the Nazi war machine, so the US government seized all their assets in February of 1942. The U.S. companies within GAF, like Ansco, were stuck in limbo. As board president Jack Fry stated in 1953, one of the problems of this company is that due to its ownership situation, the management, the boards of directors, and all concerned are extremely cautious about making expenditures, and trying to avoid mistakes, they actually move more slowly than do their competitors. This situation persisted for 20 years, leaving GAF and Ansco decades behind Kodak.
When the neighbors drop by for a slideshow, it's fun for everyone. If it's from Ansco, you know it's A+.
Finally, on March 9, 1965, the 23-year control by the U.S. government ended and GAF was sold to the public. This started a new era for the company. It was time to catch up with Kodak. To do this, they went on a serious buying spree, looking for a fast-growing company that fit well with their existing film and photography business, who could help them compete with Kodak, and they set their sights on Sawyer's. GAF began negotiations to purchase Sawyer's in July of 1965, just 4 months after they were legally able to do so, and finalized the sale in November of 1966. Viewmaster had a new corporate owner. They said they were interested in Sawyer's for their ability to manufacture photographic merchandise, cameras, projectors, and other equipment. To them, Viewmaster was just one of several weapons to use against Kodak. The deal was valued at $24.5 million. Sawyer's was at an all-time high with annual sales of $30 million, up 40% from the prior year, and GAF was desperate to make up for 23 wasted years. Sawyer's was now a small subsidiary of a gigantic New York corporation, one who'd eventually make a decision that collectors are still dealing with today. Under GAF, Viewmaster saw new package designs, some new scenic reels, and lots of new licensed movie and TV show reels. And there were some new ideas like the sports reels and the much-loved talking Viewmaster, which embedded a clear plastic record onto the back of the Viewmaster reel. But their focus was on beating Kodak. This is when the 1100Z projector came out, one example of many new products introduced under both the Sawyer's name and the Ansco name as well. In 1970, GAF became the official film of Disneyland, replacing Kodak, who'd been the sponsor since the park opened. Mission accomplished. It wasn't all good news, though, as GAF made a fundamental change that permanently damaged the Viewmaster reels they made. By the mid-70s, to cut costs, Viewmaster started making reels using a cheaper Eastman color print film, likely Eastman color 7381, which was used to produce motion picture prints for movie theaters. Unfortunately, this film wasn't intended to last, eventually turning magenta as the dyes in the emulsion degraded. This happened across the entire movie industry at the time. Even the original Eastman color prints of Star Wars faded. Almost all Viewmaster reels that use this film have turned magenta, ruining some reels that now can't be seen in color at all. GAF often gets blamed for switching to a cheaper film, but this was an issue that plagued the entire industry. As the decade continued, GAF slipped behind Kodak again. In 1977, they had a loss of $47 million. They finally claimed, "It has become impossible to compete in the domestic market." They discontinued their own Anscochrome film line and ceded the market entirely to Kodak. In 1978, they decided to sell off their consumer photo and processing operations, beginning a 5-year fire sale to get rid of every product line that was failing, including ViewMaster. In fact, GAF said getting rid of the consumer photography business was like cutting away a cancer. Only 2 product lines survived: chemicals and building materials. The chemical division was spun off in the late 90s, leaving only the roofing tile division, which is all they do today. ViewMaster, however, was urgently looking for a new home.
Even the grown-ups were talking about those funny three-dimensional slides.
From that time, over 100 million of these viewers have been made and sold. And in addition, over 1 billion of these reels have been made and sold. And I don't think there are too many items you can talk about except McDonald's hamburgers that have sold over 1 billion.
ViewMaster President Arnold Thaler knows his viewers as well as McDonald's knows its hamburgers. And like the golden...
Arnold Thaler, who heard ViewMaster was for sale from his son, who worked at GAF, purchased ViewMaster in 1981 for $24 million, creating ViewMaster International. He also bought the Pana-Vue slide business along with their viewers and projectors. According to longtime ViewMaster photographer Rich Dubnow, under GAF, ViewMaster was very small cookies, but under Thaler, ViewMaster was taken very seriously. For Thaler, ViewMaster was a toy waiting to be rediscovered. John Kurtz, 3D illustrator and art director at the time, said, "It was really great. It had to be perfect, but you had enough time to do it right. The people were all very friendly and it was very peaceful." Thaler reinvigorated the brand and refreshed all the products, packaging, and sales channels, focusing on popular TV and movie titles. They had 175 active licenses, continuously producing blockbuster titles from TV and movies. They also released a superior new talking ViewMaster that held the record beneath the reel and had a killer title, Michael Jackson's Thriller, which made $1.5 million in its first 3 months. Vice President Gary Evans was happy to be under new leadership. Sales have tripled. The coming of the new regime has been a blessing. Riding that success, Thaler took VMI public in 1983, and they began expanding quickly, buying up other toy companies left and right. Durham Industries, maker of plastic toys and playsets, Ideal, who made the Rubik's Cube, and even California Stuffed Toys, who made stuffed toys. But as the decade continued, they were struggling. Their overreach coincided with significant market slumps, and in 1988 they had a $7.2 million loss. Tyco Toys bought VMI in 1989 for $43.9 million, breathing new life into the brand, but also solidifying ViewMaster's position as just a toy. They dropped the stuffed toys and other product lines, reducing ViewMaster down to its fundamental kid-friendly licensed products. In 1993, things looked good again. Vice President Gary Evans was very positive. Lion King comes out next April. It's gonna be big. To Tyco, ViewMaster was just one of many toys they sold. In 1995, it was relegated to just 4 pages in the back of their catalog, listing just 6 viewers and less than 50 reels. Pretty soon, Tyco was in financial trouble. They closed the Belgian ViewMaster plant in 1996, shipping their reel production machines to Portland. And Tyco was sold to Mattel for $755 million in 1997, although the ViewMaster component of that price was likely very little. Spirits were high again. Tyco spokesman Bruce McGuire said, "My guess is it will increase employment." Unfortunately, things didn't go so well, and Mattel laid off nearly all the Portland area workers, leaving just 40 people. And 2 years later, things got worse again. The plant, now employing only 9 people, was fully shut down by Mattel in the year 2000. One remaining reel-making machine, built 50 years earlier by William Gruber in Stereocraft Engineering, was still running in a small room when they turned off the power for the last time. And as bad as shuttering the Viewmaster plant was, things were about to get much worse. A year after purchasing Viewmaster, Mattel got some bad news. Tests showed that the plant's drinking water was contaminated by trichloroethylene, or TCE, a suspected carcinogen. Tests found TCE levels 320 times higher than the EPA's drinking water limit. "We don't want to take any chances with safety, so we're going to use bottled water," said Dan Nottage, the plant manager. Mattel hired a toxicologist to investigate further, but Nottage felt the levels of TCE found were not health-threatening. About 125 employees worked at the plant at the time. TCE is a degreasing solvent used to clean metal parts, and also an anesthetic, literally the stuff you'd breathe in at the dentist's or during childbirth, because breathing it in made you dizzy and not feel pain. Sawyers used TCE to clean their machinery and metal parts and dumped the waste behind their building. To be clear, this was normal practice at the time. No one thought TCE was harmful. The chemical infected the groundwater, eventually making its way into the iconic Viewmaster water tower. In 2000, the state of Oregon started contacting all prior employees who'd worked at the plant. It's at this point that Mattel shut the entire plant down. I don't assume that was because of the contamination, but it's interesting because the only workers left on site were there to deal with the issues surrounding the contamination. In 2001, the federal government gave the state $100,000 to begin a landmark study of the effects of TCE. This required assembling a database of as many prior employees as possible and gathering health information from them. It was estimated that over 13,000 employees had been exposed. In February of 2002, Vice President Gary Evans, who'd worked there since 1974, died of liver cancer. He was 61 years old. His death brought a short burst of attention to the contamination issue, but it soon faded from the headlines. The study was finished in January of 2003 and concluded that the rate of cancer among the employees was 2 to 3 times higher than normal. They wanted more money to continue their research, $3 million more, but knew that the state certainly is not in a position to fund it. And as far as I can tell, nothing more was done. Meanwhile, Mattel, the remains of GAF, and the various property owners spent $3.5 million to clean up the site, which was expected to take 30 years. In 2005, the entire site was razed, including the iconic water tower, in order to build a shopping center. The property is contaminated with industrial solvent from decades of manufacturing and is undergoing a cleanup of groundwater that's expected to take another 25 years, the article says. Today, the cleanup should be almost done. The shopping plaza is still there, bordering a pleasant-looking wetland. Maybe just don't drink the water.
For over 75 years, generations of kids have been introduced to the wonder of 3D by Viewmaster.
Get ready for a whole new level of realism with the Viewmaster virtual reality.
Mattel still owns the Viewmaster brand, and they've owned it longer now than any company before them. Initially, they released a few new products, including an embarrassing attempt at the virtual reality market, but in 2009 they announced they were ceasing production of scenic reels entirely, leaving just a few educational and licensed products behind. Today, ViewMaster is licensed to Basic Fun, where you can still buy a new viewer. Corporate owners came and went, presidents retired, factories closed, and strategies changed every decade. But throughout all of it, ViewMaster's legacy never belonged to the corporations that owned it. It belongs to the engineers, photographers, sculptors, artists, and workers who created it, and to the collectors, historians, and fans who made sure it would still be remembered after the companies stopped making it. When we remember ViewMaster today, we're really remembering the work of those people far more than the corporations that happen to own the name. Well, that's it for this episode. Thanks for watching.